To actually learn a new skill, an adult has to actively participate in the process. True education requires autonomy, self-direction, and a high degree of cognitive friction. But that reality clashes entirely with what most adults expect when they buy an online course. They anticipate a transaction. They purchase the material, sit back, and wait for a passive, effortless injection of knowledge. This passive consumption model breaks down the moment a learner encounters complex material. If the curriculum demands critical thinking, merely absorbing the information does not yield results. To break this habit, instructional designers implement formative assessment. The objective is to interrupt the viewing experience and force the learner to actively evaluate their own progress. You can have the highest production quality and the most qualified instructors, but without a structural mechanism forcing active cognitive engagement, adult learners will default to passive consumption. The standard error in course design is confusing a satisfaction survey with actual formative assessment. Asking a student to rate a module on a scale of 1 to 10 does not evaluate their learning. Standard feedback loops direct data outward. Learners evaluate external elements, like the platform or instructor. Reflection reverses this flow. Learners look inward to evaluate their internal state. This mechanism measures 3 internal metrics: emotional state, cognitive load, and the ability to apply concepts to practice. True formative assessment occurs only when this locus of control shifts. The instructor stops evaluating the instructor and begins systematically evaluating themselves. Adult learners operate in high-stress environments. They navigate demanding jobs, high cognitive loads, and severe time deficits. Under these conditions, organic reflection simply does not happen. Without a prompt, a busy professional will not pause their day to internally process a lecture they just watched. Humans possess a natural cognitive resistance to tasks that offer a delayed return on investment. Reflection demands immediate mental effort, but the payoff, better comprehension and retention, is not visible until much later. Dropping an unstructured question into a course chat box like, "What did you think of today's lesson?" does not overcome this resistance. It generates shallow compliance, where students provide one-word answers just to move on to the next module. The instructional designer faces a dual mandate here. You have to explicitly sell the value of the reflection exercise to the learner, and you must actively teach them the structural mechanics of how to do it. Reflection is an engineered skill. It has to be explicitly built into the syllabus as a core competency. We can construct a functional reflective exercise using a 4-step architecture. Think of this process like a boiling teapot. Step 1 is the lid. Before any logical processing occurs, the learner must vent their immediate emotional responses and feelings about the material. Step 2 is the handle. This is where the learner analyzes the specific actions, choices, and errors they made during the module itself. Step 3 is the base. The learner grounds the newly acquired abstract concepts into their prior life experience and professional practice. Step 4 is the pour. The previous 3 stages are synthesized into a concrete plan for future application. By the end of this exercise, the prompt has transformed a raw emotional reaction into an actionable trajectory correction. That 4-step model is comprehensive, but low-load or rapid-paced modules require high-speed reflective tools where time is strictly limited. The most effective cognitive heuristic for this is the 3-2-1 method. It asks the learner for 3 specific outputs: 3 facts they learned, 2 interesting moments they observed, and 1 question that remains unanswered. Another mechanism for rapid conceptual processing is the juicer framework. This framework forces learners to cleanly separate their takeaways. They identify the juice, the core inspiration they will keep and use, and extract it from the peel, which is the irrelevant data they can confidently discard. We also apply constraints to the content creators themselves, using a concept called the big idea. The rigid rule here is that a single module should contain a maximum of 1.5 core concepts. Anything beyond that creates cognitive overflow and dilutes the reflection. These rapid heuristics function as microcorrections. They maintain the learner's engagement and pacing, ensuring they process the material without causing analytical burnout. Scaling reflection changes completely when dealing with high emotional load topics, such as specialized training on trauma, violence, or adolescent psychology. Standard cognitive reflection frameworks collapse in these environments because the subject matter itself triggers internal trauma or severe emotional drain for the practitioner. This UI walk-up displays a group work competency matrix. It is a tool for longitudinal self-assessment designed to track a student's shifting professional identity over a multi-month timeline. By forcing learners to self-score these skill variables continuously, the matrix helps them recognize gradual internal changes. This mitigates the intense frustration of not seeing instant results in difficult fields. Designers can also bypass cognitive resistance entirely by using art therapy modalities, like this abstract mood board representing adolescent psychology. Constructing these visual collages allows professionals to engage in safe, peer-to-peer emotional processing. It removes the exhausting requirement to explicitly verbalize heavy trauma. Scaling assessment for high-load courses requires the designer to abandon standard quizzes and shift the curriculum entirely into emotional processing frameworks. The ultimate objective in adult education is to replace the expectation of a magic pill with a systematized reflective architecture. This system transforms the learner from a passive consumer into an active partner, one fully capable of managing their own individual educational trajectory. But to build these systems, the instructional designer must first recalibrate their own perspective. You have to enroll in complex courses as a student and experience the daily friction of maintaining a reflective diary firsthand. It is only by feeling that specific cognitive resistance and frustration that a designer can calibrate reflective prompts to be precise, frictionless, and genuinely necessary. True formative assessment in adult education is never about building a better quiz for the student. It is entirely about engineering the student's capacity to assess themselves.